Commander Hyun-woo had been expecting trouble when the proximity alarm started screaming across the bridge of the UES Silent Runner. 3 days into their deep space reconnaissance mission, they were farther from Earth than any human had ever traveled. The emptiness of space had felt almost peaceful until now. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, Lieutenant Yoon-ji called out from her weapons station, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. "Multiple signatures, sir. I'm reading at least 30 vessels." Pilot Jin-ho gripped his controls. "Tighter. Should I prep the jump drive, Commander?" "Hold position," Hyun-woo ordered, his voice calm despite the ice forming in his stomach. He'd trained for this moment his entire career, but nothing could truly prepare someone for first contact with an alien species. "So Young, start recording everything. Command will want a complete record." Communications Officer. So Young nodded, her headset crackling with interference. "Recording active, sir. Whatever's coming, they're jamming our long-range communications." The main view screen shimmered as space itself seemed to tear open. Massive shapes began emerging from what looked like rips in reality, sleek, predatory vessels that moved with deadly grace. Each alien ship was easily 5 times the size of the Silent Runner, their hulls gleaming like polished obsidian under the starlight. "Dear God," Jin-ho whispered. "Look at the size of those things." Hyun-woo studied the alien formation with a tactical eye. The ships moved in perfect coordination, surrounding the Silent Runner in a sphere formation that cut off every possible escape route. Professional, efficient, and clearly hostile. These weren't explorers, they were hunters. 36 ships confirmed, Yoon-ji reported, her voice tight. "Each one is a heavy cruiser class by our standards. Commander, we're seriously outgunned here." "Weapons status?" Hyun-woo asked quietly. "All systems green and standing by. The new plasma arrays are fully charged, and our defensive grid is online." Yoon-ji's hands hovered over her controls. "But sir, against those numbers—" "I know the odds, Lieutenant." Hyun-woo straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. "Remember, we're not just representing ourselves out here. We're the first humans these beings will ever encounter. Let's make sure we make the right impression." The alien ships completed their encirclement, their formation so precise it looked like a military parade. Energy readings spiked across the Silent Runner's sensors as the alien vessels powered up what were clearly weapon systems. "Sir, they're scanning us," So Young reported, adjusting her equipment. "Very thorough scans. They're learning everything about our ship's capabilities." "Let them look," Hyun-woo decided, "but keep our real capabilities masked. Jin-ho, power down to minimum systems. Make us look as harmless as possible." "Aye, sir. Reducing power signature now." The bridge lights dimmed as non-essential systems went offline. To outside observers, the Silent Runner would appear to be a simple exploration vessel with basic defensive capabilities. The truth was far more complex, but first contact protocols demanded restraint. "Incoming transmission," So Young announced, her equipment lighting up. "They're using a basic mathematical sequence to establish communication. Translating now." "Got it. They're speaking directly to us." The main screen flickered and stabilized, revealing something that made Jin-ho gasp audibly. The creature on screen was clearly reptilian, with golden scales that seemed to shift and change color in the light. 4 powerful arms ended in clawed. Hands and vertical pupils studied them with predatory intelligence. "I am Admiral Vextai of the Corvani Empire," the alien spoke, its voice automatically translated by the ship's computers. "You have entered our territory without permission. Your vessel will surrender immediately for inspection and processing." Hyun-woo stepped forward, keeping his hands visible and his posture non-threatening. "Admiral Vextai, I am Commander Hyun-woo of the United Earthship Silent Runner. We come in peace on a mission of exploration. We had no knowledge of your territorial claims." The Admiral's scales darkened to a deeper gold, which the computer flagged as a possible sign of irritation. "Your species is unknown to us. Your technology appears primitive. You will comply with our demands or face immediate destruction." "We understand your position, Admiral," Hyun-woo replied diplomatically. "We're willing to cooperate with your inspection. We have nothing to hide." Behind him, Yoon-ji's fingers moved across her console in a complex pattern that looked random, but was actually activating dormant systems throughout the ship, the silent runners. True nature began to awaken, though outwardly nothing appeared to change. "Your compliance is noted but irrelevant," Admiral Vexthai continued. "Our scans will determine your vessel's capabilities. If you prove useful, your deaths will be quick. If not—" The alien's expression showed what might have been amusement. "Understood, Admiral. We're powering down our weapon systems now as a gesture of good faith." Hyunwoo made a subtle hand signal to his crew. Jinho's fingers flew over his controls. "Sir, should I activate the—" "Negative." Hyunwoo cut him off with a sharp look. "Let them scan us. Standard first contact protocols are in effect. We observe. We learn and we survive." The alien scanning beams lanced out from multiple ships, washing over the silent runner's hull in waves of exotic energy. The human crew felt a slight vibration through the deck plates as the scans penetrated deep into their ship's structure. What the Corvani didn't realize was that they weren't just scanning a simple exploration vessel. The silent runner was humanity's most advanced reconnaissance ship, designed to appear harmless while carrying enough firepower to level a city. As the alien scans probed deeper, they would discover exactly what humans were capable of building. The massive Corvani warships maintained their perfect formation around the seemingly helpless human vessel, their crews confident in their technological superiority. They had no idea they were about to learn why humanity had survived and thrived in a galaxy that had tried to kill them for millions of years. Chief Science Officer Thekmar's four arms moved gracefully across the scanning console aboard the massive Corvani flagship, Dominion's Edge. The bridge around him hummed with activity as dozens of technicians processed data from their encounter with the strange human vessel. "Initial scans complete, Admiral," Thekmar reported, his scaled hide showing the relaxed blue-green coloration that indicated confidence. "The vessel appears to be constructed with basic tritanium alloy plating, nothing sophisticated. Their propulsion system reads as a simple fusion drive, probably third-generation technology at best." Admiral Vexthai's golden scales shimmered with satisfaction as he reviewed the preliminary data on his command throne. "Defensive capabilities?" "Minimal, sir. I'm detecting what appears to be standard energy shields and possibly some basic projectile. Weapons, nothing that could threaten even our oldest cruisers." Thekmar's confidence was absolute. In his 40 years of service, he had analyzed hundreds of primitive species. This followed the same pattern. Perfect. Another weak species ripe for conquest. Vexthai turned to his tactical officer. "Prepare boarding pods. We'll strip their ship of anything useful, then add their homeworld coordinates to our expansion list." The massive Corvani war machines maintained their threatening positions around the small human ship, their crews already celebrating another easy victory. In the lower decks, Corvani warriors prepared their weapons and armor for what they expected to be a simple capture operation. But as the hours passed and the deep penetration scanners continued their work, something began to trouble Thekmar. The readings weren't making sense. "Computer, run diagnostic on scanning array 7, he ordered, his voice carrying the first hint of uncertainty. "All systems functioning within normal parameters," the ship's artificial intelligence responded. Thekmar's secondary arms manipulated additional controls, while his primary arms worked the main interface. The molecular-level scans were revealing details that contradicted everything he thought he knew about the human vessel. "That's impossible," he muttered, his scales beginning to shift toward a worried yellow pattern. The tritanium hull plating wasn't basic at all. The molecular structure showed signs of enhancement that the Corvani science databases had no record of. It was as if someone had taken ordinary metal and somehow convinced every atom to become stronger, more resilient. "Admiral," Thekmar called out, his voice cutting through the bridge chatter, "I'm detecting anomalies in the hull composition. The tritanium appears to be modified somehow. These readings don't match anything in our databases." Admiral Vexthai rose from his command throne, his own scales darkening with interest. "Explain these anomalies." "Sir, the molecular structure suggests this hull plating could withstand direct hits from our heavy plasma cannons. But that's not the strangest part." Thekmar gestured to his displays, where complex energy patterns danced across the screens. "There are power conduits running throughout their ship that serve no apparent purpose. The energy flow patterns are completely alien to our understanding. Meanwhile, aboard the silent runner, Lieutenant Unji watched her own displays with professional calm. Her console showed exactly what the Corvani scanners were detecting, and she knew the aliens were in for quite a surprise. "Commander, they're running level 5 deep scans on our hull matrix," she reported to Hyunwoo. "They're going to start detecting the real capabilities soon." Commander Hyunwoo nodded thoughtfully. "Let them discover what they need to discover. So Young, prepare our cultural database for transmission. Make sure they get the complete historical archives." Communications Officer. So Young looked up from her station with surprise. "Sir, are you certain about that?" Standard First Contact. "Protocols suggest we should limit cultural information to basic peaceful contact scenarios. Complete archives, Lieutenant. If they want to know who they're dealing with, they should get the full picture." Hyunwoo's voice carried quiet confidence. They're about to learn what human engineering really looks like. They might as well understand why we built our ships this way. Back on the Corvani flagship, Thekmar's confusion was rapidly turning into alarm. His advanced scanners had penetrated deeper into the human ship's structure, and what they found defied explanation. "Admiral, this is highly irregular," he announced, his scales now showing distinct patterns of distress. "I'm detecting what appears to be a weapons system integrated directly into their life support network. But the energy output readings, this can't be correct." "Show me," Vexthai demanded, moving to stand directly behind his science officer. For TU, main display filled with a three-dimensional representation of the silent runner's internal structure. What had initially appeared to be simple life support conduits were revealed to be something far more sophisticated. Energy flowed through pathways that served dual purposes, providing life support while simultaneously charging what could only be described as weaponry. "What are you saying, Thekmar?" The Admiral's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Sir, if these readings are accurate, this single vessel, which they classify as a scout ship, carries enough integrated firepower to level a major city. But that's impossible. No species builds exploratory vessels with that kind of destructive capability." Other Corvani officers began gathering around the science station, their scales showing various patterns of confusion and growing concern. The ship they had assumed was helpless was revealing secrets that challenged everything they thought they knew about galactic civilization. "Computer, verify these readings," Thekmar ordered. "Verification complete. All readings are accurate within acceptable margins of error." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of alien technology processing impossible data. The small human ship floating helplessly in their trap was apparently armed well enough to single-handedly engage their entire fleet. "There must be an error," Admiral Vexthai insisted. "No peaceful exploration vessel carries this level of weaponry." "Sir," Thekmar replied quietly, "I don't think these humans consider this level of weaponry to be unusual. According to my analysis of their ship classifications, this vessel is rated as a light reconnaissance unit. It's not even considered a proper warship by their standards." The implications hit the Corvani command staff like a physical blow. If this was what humans considered lightly armed, what did their actual warships look like? Science Officer Lackamore had always prided himself on his ability to crack alien computer systems. His 6 tentacle-like appendages danced across multiple interfaces simultaneously, breaking through the human ship's data protection with practiced ease. The silent runner's databases were surprisingly sophisticated, but nothing his advanced decryption algorithms couldn't handle. "Admiral, I've successfully accessed their historical records," Lackamore announced, his voice carrying the satisfaction of a job well done. "Preparing translation matrix now. Their language structure is quite primitive but workable." Admiral Vexthai moved closer to the central display, his golden scales rippling with anticipation. "Excellent work. Show me everything about this Earth civilization. I want to understand their military capabilities, their weaknesses, and how best to conquer them." The main display came alive with streams of human data. Initially, everything seemed to confirm the Corvani's assumptions about this new species. Early human history showed primitive tools, simple agriculture, and basic social structures. Cave paintings depicted humans hunting with spears and living in small tribes. As expected, Vexthai nodded approvingly, another young species that barely understands fire. This should be straightforward. But as Lackamore dug deeper into the human archives, the timeline began to reveal something disturbing. The progression of human technology wasn't driven by exploration or scientific curiosity. Every major advancement seemed to be connected to one thing: warfare. "Admiral, this is unusual," Lackamore said, his voice beginning to carry uncertainty. "Their technological development follows a pattern I've never seen before. Look at this." The display showed the invention of metallurgy, but the first metal objects weren't farming tools or decorative items. They were weapons, swords, spears. Hand armor appeared almost immediately after humans learned to work with metal. "They learned to make metal so they could kill each other more efficiently," observed Tactical Officer Zephran, his own scales showing patterns of confusion. "It gets worse," Lackmore continued, pulling up more recent human history. "Watch this. Progression." The display filled with images that made several Corvani officers step backward in shock. Massive explosions that turned entire cities into smoking craters. Mushroom clouds rising kilometers into the sky. The raw, destructive power was unlike anything the Corvani had ever witnessed. "By the void," Lackmore whispered, his tentacles trembling as he processed the data. "Admiral, they've been at war with themselves for their entire recorded history. Not just small conflicts, massive global wars that consumed entire continents." The horrifying scope of human warfare began to unfold on the screen. Images of trenches filled with millions of dead soldiers, cities reduced to rubble by aerial bombardment, chemical weapons that killed indiscriminately across vast battlefields. "This entry is marked as the First Global War," Lackamore continued, his voice now shaking with disbelief. "Casualty count, 20 million dead across multiple continents. But Admiral, according to their historical classification system, this was considered a minor conflict in the scope of their species' history." Admiral Vexthai's scales had turned a deep dark gold that indicated extreme agitation. "That's impossible. 20 million casualties in a minor conflict. Show me what they consider a major war." The data that followed left the entire Corvani. Bridge crew in stunned silence. World War II unfolded before their eyes, with its staggering death toll of over 50 million beings. The Holocaust, the atomic bombings, the siege of cities, the systematic destruction of entire populations. "They killed 50 million of their own species in a single conflict," Lackmore reported, his voice barely above a whisper. "And then, Admiral, they developed weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. They called it the Cold War, a 40-year standoff where both sides had enough nuclear weapons to end all life on their world." The display showed intercontinental ballistic missiles, nuclear submarines, and orbital weapons platforms. The humans had turned their own planet into a potential graveyard and lived with that reality for decades. "Look at this." Tactical Officer Zephran pointed to another section of data. "They have detailed records of something called conventional warfare. These conventional weapons include things that could level our capital cities." Meanwhile, aboard the Silent Runner, Communications Officer So Young monitored the data transmission with professional interest. "Commander, they're accessing our military history files. They're getting the complete picture." Commander Hyunwoo nodded calmly. "Good. Let them understand what they're dealing with. How are they reacting?" "Based on their communication chatter, I'd say they're experiencing significant distress," So Young reported with a slight smile. Back on the Corvani flagship, the revelations continued to mount. Lackmore had discovered records of regional conflicts that individually claimed more lives than the largest wars in Corvani history. Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, conflicts the humans considered relatively small, had casualty counts that dwarfed anything the Corvani Empire had ever experienced. "Admiral," Chief Science Officer Theckamar interrupted from his station, his voice carrying new urgency, "I've completed the detailed weapons analysis of their ship. According to their own military classification system, this vessel is designated as a light reconnaissance unit. It's not even considered a proper warship by human standards." The bridge fell completely silent, except for the persistent hum of alien technology processing data that challenged everything the Corvani thought they knew about warfare and civilization. "You're telling me," Admiral Vextai said slowly, "that this scout ship, which carries enough firepower to destroy our home cities, isn't even considered armed by human standards?" "That's correct, sir. I've found references to their actual warships in the database. They have classifications like planet crackers, system breakers, and extinction-class vessels. Based on the energy signatures mentioned in their technical manuals, these aren't metaphorical names." The horrifying realization began to sink in among the Corvani command staff. They weren't dealing with a primitive species that had stumbled into space. They were facing a civilization that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare, against opponents every bit as clever and dangerous as themselves. And if this tiny scout ship was any indication, humanity had gotten very, very good at building things designed to kill. Admiral Vextai's 4 arms gripped the command rail of his flagship as the full scope of the human threat became clear. The tactical display before him showed energy readings that shouldn't have been possible from such a small vessel. His golden scales had shifted to a deep amber color that his crew recognized as extreme stress. "Thekmar, run those calculations. Again," he ordered, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. "You're telling me this single human ship could destroy our entire forward fleet?" Chief Science Officer Thekmar's tentacles worked frantically across his console, double and triple checking readings that seemed to defy the laws of physics. "Sir, based on the weapon system integration and the energy readings from what they call their defensive systems, yes. A single focused assault from this vessel could cripple our entire battle group. But Admiral, that's not the worst part." The science officer's voice cracked with disbelief as he continued. "I've analyzed their ship classification codes in detail. What they call a light reconnaissance vessel carries more integrated firepower than our heaviest dreadnoughts. The energy conduits we detected earlier, they're not just powering weapons, they're powering weapon systems that can operate at multiple power levels simultaneously." Strategic analyst Mordan approached the command center with a data pad clutched in his 3-fingered hands. His usually calm demeanor had been replaced by visible agitation. "Admiral, I've been studying their military doctrine through the night cycle. They classify warfare into categories we don't even have words for in our language." "Explain," Vextai demanded, though part of him dreaded the answer. "What they term conventional warfare involves weapons that could sterilize entire planets. Their tactical nuclear weapons are designed for battlefield use and carry more destructive power than our orbital bombardment platforms. And, sir, they consider these to be the small weapons." The main display shifted to show images captured from the human databases. Massive shipyards floated in space around Earth, constructing vessels that dwarfed anything in the Corvani fleet. The construction bays were so large that entire Corvani cruisers could have fit inside them like toys. "They're actual warships?" Mordan continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. "They call them planet crackers and system breakers. Based on the energy signatures mentioned in their technical specifications, these aren't metaphorical names. They literally build ships designed to destroy worlds." Tactical Officer Zephyron looked up from his station with horror. "Admiral, I've been analyzing their fleet composition data. They don't just have 1 or 2 of these massive vessels. They have hundreds of them, organized into what they call battle groups that patrol different sectors of their space." The bridge crew exchanged glances of growing terror. The Corvani Empire prided itself on having the most powerful fleet in their sector of the galaxy. Their dreadnoughts were feared across a dozen star systems. But compared to human military capabilities, they were little more than patrol boats. Meanwhile, aboard the Silent Runner, the human crew continued their duties with professional calm. Commander Hyunwoo stood at the center of the bridge, reviewing a priority message that had just arrived through their quantum communication array. "Sir, long-range sensors are picking up significant Corvani fleet movements in the outer system," Communications Officer So Young reported. "It appears they're calling in reinforcements." Hyunwoo nodded thoughtfully. "Expected. Any word from Earth Command?" "Yes, sir. The Thunderbolt and Stormbreaker battle groups are en route to provide support. ETA is approximately 4 hours. Lieutenant?" Gonji looked up from her weapons console with a questioning expression. Commander, should I inform the aliens that reinforcements are coming? It might help them make better decisions about their next move. Negative, Lieutenant. Let them figure it out themselves. Sometimes the most educational experiences come from discovery rather than explanation. Hyunwoo's voice carried quiet confidence. Jinho, maintain current position. So-young, continue transmitting cultural data. Make sure they get our complete military history. Aye, sir. Transmitting data on the Terran-Martian conflicts, the Belt Wars, and the Great Unification. Now, back on the Corvani flagship, the crew was beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. The humans weren't just another primitive species to be conquered. They were something far more dangerous, a civilization that had learned to survive by becoming very, very good at warfare. Suddenly, proximity alarms began screaming across the bridge. Red warning lights bathed the command center in an ominous glow as sensor operators scrambled to identify new contacts. Admiral, Senior Sensor Operator Kethevin called out, his voice high with panic. Multiple contacts approaching at impossible speeds. They're dropping out of hyperspace directly into our formation. The main screen shifted to show space itself, seeming to tear open as massive shapes emerged from the darkness. 3 enormous human vessels materialized with the fluid grace of apex predators, their hulls gleaming with weapon systems that made the silent runner look like a toy by comparison. Great Creator preserve us, Admiral Vextai whispered, his scales now showing the pale yellow of absolute terror. If their scout ship was this dangerous, what are those monsters? The human warships were truly massive, each one easily 10 times the size of the silent runner, and bristling with weapon systems that defied Corvani understanding of physics. Energy readings from the newcomers were so high that the Corvani sensors initially registered them as small stars rather than spacecraft. Chief Science Officer Thekmar's readings confirmed everyone's worst fears. Admiral, those ships are reading Gaz mobile battle stations. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy our entire home fleet. The energy signatures they're off our measurement scales. The lead human vessel, designated UES Thunderbolt, according to their transponder, took position directly in front of the Corvani formation. Its hull was scarred from countless battles, and weapon ports lined its sides like the teeth of some cosmic predator. Sir, Tactical Officer Zephyran reported with a trembling voice, I'm detecting weapon systems on those ships that we don't have names for. Energy projectors, matter disruptors, and something called a reality anchor. I don't even know what that last one does. Admiral Vextai stared at the display showing the 3 human warships positioned around his fleet, like shepherds surrounding sheep. The terrible understanding finally hit him with full force. They weren't the hunters in this situation. They were the prey. And the humans were about to show them exactly what humanity's idea of a proper warship looked like. The massive hull of the UES Thunderbolt dominated the view screen as it established communication with the Corvani fleet. The human warship was a monument to military engineering, its scarred armor plating telling stories of countless battles across the galaxy. Weapon ports along its sides glowed with barely contained energy, like the eyes of a sleeping dragon. Incoming transmission from the human flagship, Communications Officer Vectan reported on the Corvani bridge, his voice barely steady. The main display flickered to life, revealing the bridge of the Thunderbolt. Captain Minseok appeared on screen, his weathered face showing the calm confidence of a man who had seen real combat. Behind him, the human bridge bustled with activity as dozens of crew members operated systems that the Corvani sensors couldn't even identify. Corvani vessels, this is Captain Minseok of the Earth Defense Force, the human captain announced, his voice carrying absolute authority. You are currently surrounding one of our exploration ships. I require an immediate explanation of your intentions in this sector. Admiral Vextai felt his 4 hands trembling as he stepped forward to respond. The weight of the moment pressed down on him like a physical force. His golden scales had shifted to the pale yellow of fear, a color his crew had never seen there. Commander display. Captain Minseok, Vextai began, his voice cracking slightly. We were conducting routine territorial scans. Our sensors detected your vessel in what we believed to be unclaimed space. No hostile intent was meant by our actions. The human captain's eyes narrowed slightly, studying the alien admiral with the gaze of someone evaluating a potential threat. "Commander Hyunwoo, please report your status." "All secure, Captain," came the calm reply from the silent runner. "Standard first contact protocols have been in effect throughout this encounter. No incidents to report. The Corvani have been educational in their approach to diplomacy." Behind Captain Min Seok, the bridge of the Thunderbolt was a marvel of human military technology. Holographic displays showed tactical information that made the Corvani's best systems look primitive. Crew members moved with practiced efficiency, their hands dancing across controls that managed weapon systems the aliens couldn't even comprehend. "Very well, Commander," Min Seok acknowledged. "Corvani Admiral, I want to be clear about our position. We appreciate your restraint in this situation. As a gesture of goodwill, we're transmitting a comprehensive non-aggression treaty proposal. I strongly suggest you review it carefully." The transmission cut off, leaving the Corvani bridge in stunned silence. Admiral Vexthai stared at the human. Warships surrounding his fleet, each one a floating fortress that could probably destroy his entire armada single-handedly. "Sir," Chief Science Officer Thekmar said quietly, "the humans are transmitting detailed specifications of their defensive capabilities. They're showing us exactly what their ships can do." The tactical display filled with data that made the Corvani crew gasp in horror. The Thunderbolt alone carried enough firepower to glass entire continents. Its defensive shields could withstand direct hits from weapons that would vaporize Corvani dreadnoughts. And most terrifying of all, this was just one ship in what the haze humans casually referred to as a light patrol group. "Analysis complete," Admiral Vexthai announced to his senior staff. "I want recommendations. What's our next move?" The bridge fell silent except for the hum of alien technology processing impossible data. Finally, Thekmar spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sir, we should retreat immediately and never, ever threaten a human vessel again." "Explain." "Your reasoning," Vexthai demanded, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Because, Admiral, after reviewing their complete military history and analyzing their current capabilities, I've realized something terrifying. These humans didn't develop this level of technology despite being peaceful. They developed it because they're the most efficient killers in the galaxy." Thekmar's tentacles worked across his console, bringing up the human historical data they had captured. They've spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare against opponents just as clever, just as ruthless, and just as dangerous as themselves. Every human conflict pushed them to develop better weapons, better tactics, better ways to survive. Strategic analyst Mordan nodded in agreement. "Sir, their entire civilization is built around the concept of controlled violence. They don't fight to conquer or enslave. They fight to completely eliminate threats to their survival. It's not personal to them, it's just efficient." Admiral Vexthai looked at the human ships on his display, their hulls gleaming with weapons that could end his empire in hours. "And now they're offering us peace?" "Yes, sir, and we should accept it immediately. Because the alternative isn't defeat or subjugation, it's complete extinction." The weight of that statement settled over the Corvani bridge like a shroud. They had encountered many species in their expansion across the galaxy. Some had fought back, others had surrendered, but none had ever presented this level of existential threat. "All ships," Admiral Vexthai commanded, his voice carrying across the fleet communications network. "Immediate withdrawal from this sector. Set course for home base, maximum speed. Navigation. Plot a course that avoids all human territories." He turned to his communications officer. "Send priority message to High Command. Humans are to be classified as Galactic Extinction Event. Under no circumstances are any Corvani forces to engage them in hostilities. Any commander who violates this order will be court-martialed for crimes against the Empire." As the massive Corvani fleet began its retreat, the alien ships moving away from the human vessels with obvious haste, the bridge of the silent runner remained calm and professional. Commander Hyunwoo watched the alien withdrawal with quiet satisfaction. "Well done, everyone. Another successful first contact mission. So Young transmit our cultural exchange packages to their fleet as they leave, include our music, art, and philosophy. No need to leave them with only the military data. Communications. Officer So Young looked puzzled. Sir, I have to ask, why didn't we just tell them from the beginning that we were a peaceful species? Hyunwoo smiled slightly, his expression carrying the wisdom of someone who had seen many such encounters. Lieutenant, we did tell them we were peaceful. They just chose not to listen. Sometimes the most peaceful thing you can do is make sure others understand the true cost of war. He gestured toward the retreating alien fleet. Now they understand that humanity offers friendship to those who want it, but we're perfectly capable of defending ourselves against those who don't. That's not a threat, it's just reality. The silent runner resumed its course toward unexplored space, leaving behind a humbled alien empire and a new understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. The stars ahead held promise of new discoveries, new species to meet, and new opportunities, to show that sometimes the best way to keep the peace is to be very, very good at war. The end.